Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Imperfectly Empowered podcast. I am your host, Ahna Fulmer. Having battled crippling health issues for 20 years, YURI is a CEO, best-selling author, and former pro soccer player passionate about helping people make health and fitness simple again to enjoy energy all day long. Here to simplify the complex world of health and reduce your confusion with clear, actionable, and science backed advice that cuts through the nonsense. Welcome New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today best-selling author YURI Elkaim.
Good afternoon, Anna. How's it going?
Hi, YURI. Good. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm just going to pull my blinds up a little.
Yeah,
Thanks
no
for having
worries.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, my
Do you
pleasure. My
need
pleasure.
anything? Or you ready to roll?
I'm ready to rock. I have just you can throw whatever you want my way. I'm happy to roll with the punches and have
Awesome.
a good time.
Awesome. I love it. So my thought for you, because my podcast is primarily health, fitness, family, not as
Mhm.
much business. What I would love to do is tap into your expertise and story with health and fitness, but then, help people know you and love you and trust you that way. But then at the end, we'll tap into healthpreneur because I actually have a lot of doctors who listen.
Mhm.
So I think you would be perfect for them, but to
Thank you.
stay like on niche to the podcast. But then I think it'll roll seamlessly into healthpreneur because you're like, I love everything that you do. I am your
Thank you.
target market, so that makes this really easy.
That's awesome. Oh, I mean, I love helping health professionals because that's who I
Yeah.
am, right? So it's
Yeah.
an amazing market. But thank you.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll get started here. So we'll start here in 3, 2, 1. Yuri, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Anna. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just saying offline before we press record that I am like Yuri's target market. Everything that he does, I was literally falling down the rabbit hole of all of your websites because I'm like, oh, that's so good. I literally had to stop reading your blog posts because I was like, I'm losing time. I got to just prepare for the interview. I
Well,
love
thank
it.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to press the rewind button and hear your story is a unique one, and it started at the tender age of 17, which is a tough time no matter how well life is going for you, really.
Mhm.
And yours was an exceptionally challenging start at 17. But share with us a little bit about how you even got to where you are right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they kind of tie in together. So
Yeah.
when I was just about 17, I lost all of my hair to an autoimmune condition. So, like, as you see, like nothing, like nowhere on my body. My wife is jealous of my nice legs because I don't have to shave. My dad
Amazing.
is Moroccan. So, for context, I
Hmm.
had a lot more hair when I was young.
Hmm.
But from a very young age, I wanted to play pro soccer. So, from 10, I was like, I'm going to play pro soccer. And so, I dedicated all of my teenage years to training and playing. I was fit, but I didn't realize I wasn't healthy
Yeah.
until I lost all my hair. And I was like, what? What's going on there? So, like, not surprisingly, the allopathic community didn't really have any answers other than injecting
Mhm.
cortisone in my head and saying, it's probably stress. Maybe it'll come back. Who knows? So, 8 years later of going down the rabbit hole of trying to find solutions, I didn't really find anything. And then I went back. So I say this was probably the most important thing that happened for me because
Hmm.
it really moved me in the direction of wanting to figure out why this happened. So my passion for soccer, which I eventually ended up playing pro for a number of years, but my passion for like sport and fitness, as well as trying to figure this out, was maybe I'll go to school and study kinesiology and health sciences. So that's where I started. I got my undergrad there. Then I went back to school to study holistic nutrition. And that's when my life changed because I was like, whoa, like exposed to nutrition concepts that I was
Mhm.
never even aware of. And even going to one of the top universities in the world,
Yeah.
never heard about. And that was a huge moment in my life. So I was 25 at the time. And I started experimenting with everything I was learning. So changing up my diet, I was like raw vegan for a number of months. and I regrew all of my hair in the space of a few
Mm.
months. Now, 10 years later, I got a tetanus booster and it all fell out again, but we'll just say that for another day. But at the time, I was blown away, not even by the hair regrowth, but it was the energy that I was experiencing.
Mm.
Because the thing that I hadn't pieced together was the fact that I was exhausted for most of my life, sleeping half of my days, pretty much. And eventually, like as I started to learn about the body, and at least from my perspective, I was so tired all the time because my body was constantly fighting stuff,
Mm.
right? Foods I wasn't supposed to be eating or whatever. And so my immune system just went haywire. So as I started to clean things up, I started to first and foremost notice how much more energy I was feeling. And as a byproduct, I just regrew my hair. And I was like, I have to
Mm.
share this message with the world. And so I started writing a book in the back of class when I was going through nutrition school.
Students,
Um,
close your ears. I'm just kidding.
and about, what was it? About 9 years later, that became a #2 New York Times bestseller because it
Mm.
started off as an ebook. I just wanted to share with people. And then eventually I had the opportunity to meet the publisher or the CEO of Hay House. And that I was like, I think I could
Mm.
turn this into a published book.
Mm.
And it just became like this compelling message to want to share like my own mess, how that could become the message to help other people.
Mm.
So during that time, I was working as a nutritionist and trainer, one-on-one with clients, 7 years, burnt out. 2005, I was like, I got to do something different. I can't keep doing this. So I set up a website, had no clue what I was doing. I wanted to live the laptop lifestyle, read an ebook, make millions. Didn't happen. But that was the start of my online business. So back in 2005, and then for the next 13 years, eventually figuring things out, helping 500,000 people to better health with information and products and coaching. And then I sold that company about 6 years ago because a lot of other people in our space were asking me for business advice. I was like, huh, maybe there's an opportunity here. And by that point, I'd
Yeah.
spent so much time learning how to build a business that I became very good at it. And
Mhm.
I'd shot thousands of videos around, health, fitness, nutrition, and I was just kind of tired of talking about it. So I thought to myself, maybe this is my next chapter. And that's really where Healthpreneur was born. And I went through a really interesting year of imposter syndrome because for
Mm.
me, for so long, I identified as a health expert. And I
Mhm.
worried, I'm like, what are people going to think of me if I'm now this business guy?
Mm.
Right? Oh, he's just out to make money, blah, like all of this nonsense. And then for like a
Yeah.
year, I just like didn't do anything. And then I
Mm.
said, you know what? This is not about me. This is about serving a lot of people. My mission's always been to help 1 billion people. And I figured if I could help other practitioners build better businesses, then they could help more people and collectively we
Mhm.
all win. And
Mhm.
so that's how I got here to where I am today.
I love it. You can tell he's told that story more than once. That was beautifully done.
Thank you.
Except I'm gonna like press rewind again. You on your website, you talk about the hair loss and the struggle. You mentioned identity. And what I really appreciate about your story is I think it's a conversation that you do not hear men having as often when it comes to the aesthetic
Mhm.
element of identity, because it is in the culture that we're in, tends to be more geared toward women from the aesthetic standpoint. And I would love to hear your thoughts and what you remember feeling and struggling with for so many years. You have this lovely story on your website, and you talk about the point that you got to where you were drawing your eyebrows on with makeup.
Yep.
And the
Like any
thing
man
is,
would, right?
right, like,
Yeah.
listen, here's the thing. Let's talk about what we women do,
Sure.
right? Like, I don't laugh at that at all because let's talk about us women. We're tattooing eyebrows on and we have
Yeah.
eyebrows. Right? And like we're injecting ourselves with Botox and we're getting lip fillers and we're doing the false eyelash thing and the hair extensions. And everyone who's been on here and heard me before knows I am not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's not a right or wrong. But the wisdom principle that comes in is like being able to pause and ask ourselves the really hard why. And then secondly, the how is it impacting me and those around me?
Yeah.
Um, and so I would love to hear from your perspective, which is a unique one, what it felt like before you had that, what you called like baptism moment, where it was sort of like this releasing experience. Because I think we need to hear it, because where do we find our confidence truly? And how do we wrestle with this concept of that we hear a lot as women, just do whatever you need to do to feel confident?
Yeah.
Because
That's
it's
a
a
good question.
really, it's sort of an endless pursuit then of enough. When
Yeah.
is enough enough?
I mean, I think life is full of dichotomies, right? It's like
Yes.
accept yourself, but get better. Like it's nonstop, right?
Yes.
So for context, I lost all my hair, regrew it, and then I kept my head shaved, but I had eyebrows and so forth. And then when I lost my hair again, I was 31. So by that time, I had grown this health business online, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh dear, now what are people going to think? Because I'm this health
Mm,
expert who looks like he's going through chemo.
yeah.
And there was a tremendous amount of shame that came with that. And so
Mm,
what I did is I said, let me paint on some eyebrows every single day with my wife's makeup. And it's just so weird because I have hundreds of videos on YouTube where I have painted eyebrows on, and some of the videos, most of them don't look the same, right? Like
yeah.
I'm like, what's going on here? But I didn't even think about that at the time. I was more
Yeah.
concerned about what people were going to think of me without eyebrows, that I was willing to look like a clown with them on.
Mm,
And I did that for 2 years. And the hardest part was not wanting to work out and to a level where I would sweat
yes.
because it might drip off, or not wanting to
Yeah.
go swimming with my little kids at the time because it might wash off. And it was exhausting. Like honestly, that it felt like it's only makeup, but it felt like there was a massive anvil on my back because it
Mm,
was just this charade every day.
mm,
And 2 years later, I was at an event and whatever, but I made a decision to just stop. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. I'm throwing the makeup out right now. I'm gonna wake up in the morning and I'm done. So I go to the events and I have eyebrows, fake eyebrows. The next morning, I wake up and I don't have eyebrows. And it was
mhm,
very like, I was like, okay, are people gonna know? I was so self-absorbed. What are people,
mm,
are they gonna notice? We're so self-absorbed for the most part. We're so like, what are people gonna think? No one cares. So I
yeah.
go to this yoga session on the beach, and we're in the Dominican. And previously, I would have thought to myself, okay, well, if it rains or if I go in the ocean, this is not going to make sense. So I remember we're laying in shavasana and it starts raining. And I'm like, this is like the most amazing miracle. So I
Mm,
get up out of shavasana and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go run into the beach, run into the ocean and go for a swim. So I go in there and I'm like free as a bird. I come out of the water and to your point, it literally felt like a baptism, like I was reborn. And it was
yeah.
one of the most freeing moments. And I think the lesson that I had to learn in that process was I'm good enough, right? The
Mhm,
way I am, I'm perfect just the way I am.
mhm.
Now, with that said, I'm not saying that's like a hall pass to not improve and get better as a person,
Yep. Yeah.
but it gave me a lot of permission just to be myself. And I think for a
Yeah.
very long time, I was too concerned what other people thought of me, to a point where I didn't even care anymore,
Yeah.
definitely to a lesser extent. And so a lot of people say, well, it must have been hard losing your hair when you were 17. And I was like, honestly, it wasn't that bad. It was harder the second time because I had
Yeah.
quote unquote
Yeah.
more to lose,
Yes.
reputation, whatever.
Yes.
But what was interesting is I shot a video for my YouTube channel at the time. It's called like My Coming Out.
Yeah.
And that was a very, probably one of the most fearful moments of my life, which sounds
Mm,
ridiculous even saying this. And I just said, hey guys, this is me. This is what's going on.
mhm.
And what was interesting about that is like I had tons of comments of people just like, thank you so much for being the real you, et cetera. And then I started to notice that it was giving other people permission to be themselves. At least that was my
Yeah.
intention. And I realized I was like, man, like all this time, it's just like
Mm,
people know there's something going on, but it's like this
mm,
awkwardness of like, you don't want to say anything or whatever. Even some of my friends, like it was never brought up in conversation.
mm.
But it was a very, very liberating moment. And it started to really get me thinking of like what really matters in life. Like it's only
Yeah.
hair. People are
Yeah.
suffering with wounds. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I so appreciate your transparency and your authenticity, because it is something that women especially, like, we struggle with this all of the time, and some of it is societally driven. A lot of it is societally driven. But we also have the opportunity to choose, like you're saying. Like it is a choice to decide, am I going to keep subjecting myself to these artificial, invasive, whatever solutions to meet a societal standard of beauty
Yeah.
that is not sustainable. It's not, frankly, natural, authentic. And the word that I heard you use, I think at least 3 times, that you felt after was freedom. And so this is the question for those of us listening. And I'm tapping in here for a second because Yuri's perspective is so unique and I value it, especially as a man, coming from a man. That the question we need to ask ourselves, are we truly experiencing freedom and increased confidence with these artificial, superficial applications? Or are we actually creating almost more bondage for ourselves because we're trying to meet everyone else's idea
Yep.
of what pretty and worthwhile really is? And so
Yeah.
I just thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's very tiring to live a life trying to make other people happy or worrying about what other people think, whether that's our parents, our friends, or
Yeah.
even strangers who don't even know us.
The in
Right? Like,
amen. That's it. It's the industry. It's still,
yeah,
to your point, it is not crazy at all to me to feel like the most fearful thing you did was get in front of a camera without eyebrows on, because especially when you're in a forward-facing leadership position, this is why so many of us female leaders are doing all the things, the hair extensions, the false eyelashes, the tattooed eyebrows, the
mhm,
Botox, fill it in, because we're in the front and
yeah,
people are watching us and criticizing us more openly. And it still hurts, even if it's strangers. So, not weird at all.
yeah. And listen, I mean, I think social media, as we know, is obviously exacerbated up because it's like when
Yes.
you look at, for instance, Instagram, all you see is, and now especially like AI photos or AI
Yes.
versions of perfection, which is, you know, crazy how realistic it looks. And
Yeah.
if you see that, like even subconsciously over and over again, that is the new standard of what you think is normal, right?
Yes.
Of like this
Yes.
body or this face or this whatever,
Yep.
once what no big deal. But if you see that over and over and
That's
over
right.
again, you just start to be like this is how I have to look. This is how I have to show up. And I think we all have to go on a journey. I mean, all of us are on a journey in some way, shape, or form where we have to
Yep.
learn these lessons. I'm just very blessed that I learned them fairly early on in life. And that's why I
Mm.
love serving health professionals because
Mm.
almost everyone I've ever worked with has had some crisis from a health
Mm.
perspective, which is why they want to help other people because wanted to help themselves. And I think it's very interesting because I think some of the most enlightened people I know have gone through the most traumatic things in their life, whether it's losing a
Yes.
parent or a loved one or a major health issue. And there's a level of wisdom that comes with that
Mhm.
that is very, very, I don't want to say rare, but maybe. Like again, I'm blessed to
Mhm.
work with health professionals every day, but there's a certain level of growth that comes with challenges. And I think it's just seeing the blessing and all that and looking at
Yeah.
how do I turn this? It didn't happen to me, it happened
Yep.
for me. And
Right.
then how can I use that to serve other people?
Yeah. Amen to that. And it comes back to dichotomies again. It's like you're holding in tension these two concepts. One of my best friends was diagnosed with cancer at a young age with young kids, and I had her on the podcast, and she said, "I know greater joy because I've known deeper grief."
Yep.
And it's exactly what you're saying is we can stay comfortable right here and try to meet everyone else's expectations, or we can live more authentically, and it's probably going to hurt. But in that, then there's probably going to be greater joy, greater wisdom,
Yep.
etc. And the opportunity to change the world in a powerful way, like Yuri is doing right now. You also highlighted the fact, I have said this so many times on the podcast, and your story fits into it beautifully again, the lack of knowledge we still have about nutrition. And what's so fascinating is that despite playing professional soccer, there was still this gap in nutritional understanding as it affects our function. And so I think that's one of my issues that we're seeing still in the health and fitness industry. It's better, but that diet and nutrition is still too focused on, to our point, appearance as opposed to function.
Yep.
So this is an area that you have a lot of expertise in. You wrote, maybe, is this the book you were writing in the back of the classroom, All Day Energy?
Yep. That's
That
the
was the
one.
one he was writing while he's in school. Love it.
Yeah. It was called Eating for Energy at the time. And
Okay.
then it morphed into the all day energy diet as we decided to turn it into a published book. But yeah, I mean, like I was like, they say like youth is wasted on the young. I think I was a living example of that because when I was in my teenage years, I would go to McDonald's before a soccer game and I'd have a Big Mac combo. Like,
Yeah.
no big deal. And then I remember when I was playing professionally. So I was in France. I remember having Nutella, sort of crepes with Nutella 3 hours before a match. I would,
Yeah.
living close to like
Which sounds
uh
fantastic if I'm being honest, but
yeah,
yes.
like, but for anyone who's like aware of nutrition, they're like, man, like, how did you not fall asleep on the field? But stuff like
Right.
that, I'd have a whole baguette every day.
Yeah.
Um, I had no clue because I just thought,
Yeah.
well, I'll burn it off. Like that was my thinking. It's like I had no idea that food could impact cognitive function, performance, recovery. And it's almost like you almost want to be old in your teenage years to be like, oh my God, how like my body is so sore. But if I eat this way,
Yeah.
it feels better. Unfortunately, we have to live a bit to experience that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why like for me, it was like the nutrition stuff I learned when I quote unquote retired playing soccer. I was like, man, if I'd known this beforehand, that would have been useful. But
Yes.
I was able, so it's interesting because I went back to, I worked as the assistant coach and strength and conditioning coach at the University of Toronto with the men's soccer program for 7 years. And one of the most proudest things I was able to do there was help teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one practice, there's guys walking down the street coming to the stadium. These are 18-year-old kids and they have a green
Mm-hmm.
juice in their hand, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was
You're like,
like,
I've done it.
I think my work here is done. But that like it was great to just
It
like
was
to
actually just
instill.
Diet Mountain Dew. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Exactly. So like instilling those types of that
Yeah.
knowledge and understanding in young kids that I never had access to was very rewarding for me. So
I love that. In a minute, we're going to dive more into Yuri's expert advice on how to double your energy in 7 days, but also tap into his amazing company called Healthpreneur. Those of you that are health professionals, you are not going to want to miss this. But first, he didn't know he was signing up for this. We're going to play a quick round of Would You Rather.
my kids watch this
How's
on
that?
YouTube.
How's that for transition? Oh, do they? Well,
Oh
they
yeah,
can watch it
yeah.
again on YouTube when this episode goes out.
Let's
They're going to
rockets.
love it. Okay. Would you rather go to the movie theater or a concert hall? So like either you're going to go to the movie theater and watch a movie or you're going to go and like see a musical on Broadway or something.
I guess it depends on like if it's a musical, if it's a terrible soul-sucking movie, probably not so much. But if it's a good movie, I'll take the movie. If it's a
Yeah.
comedian or some type of DJ, because I like that type of music, I would go to the
Okay.
concert hall. So I guess it depends. That's not a good answer, but yeah,
It depends. He's fired from Would You Rather. He's done. Your kids are so disappointed. I'm just
I know.
kidding. What's your favorite movie?
Nacho Libre.
Okay. Did you see
If
that
you've
one
not
in the
seen,
theater?
you have not lived if you have not seen that movie. Yeah.
You're also fired if you've not watched Nacho Libre. I have actually seen it, but I don't. I forget it.
It's most
Oh,
people be like, that's the most ridiculous movie of all time. And that's like
you
I
now
like
know
humor.
Yuri. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just find a lot of the Hollywood stuff is so overly dark and horrific
Yes.
that I
Yes.
can't I can't even watch it. Like it just
I hear that.
it just negatively affects my energy. So I
Yes.
tend to gravitate towards things that are lighter, funnier, a little bit
Yeah.
goofy. Yeah,
I hear that. I mean, sometimes we just need to be able to laugh more
totally.
at ourselves and the world around us. Would you rather tea or coffee?
Coffee, no questions
Just like
asked.
what? This isn't a question. Okay, I
Yeah,
support that.
that's a
What
no-brainer.
how do you drink your coffee?
So typically I'll do a long espresso in the morning, no sugar, no
Mm-hmm.
cream.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also like Starbucks cold brew. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't like Starbucks coffee other than their nitro cold brew. So I'll do that as well.
I'm with you there. My go-to Starbucks drink is the sweet cream nitro cold brew. It's
That's
pretty
mine
much the
too.
only drink that I get there. Look at that. We were meant to be friends for
Yeah.
so many reasons. Okay. Would you rather cake or pie?
I'm gonna go with pie on this one.
What's your favorite pie? There's the people always, it's one or the other. There's never both on this one.
Yeah.
People have distinct opinions.
I like a good bumbleberry pie, but I don't eat pie ever. Like I'm not really, I don't eat that stuff anymore, but
Yeah, it's not your choice
bumbleberry pie,
of food.
yeah,
What
yeah.
is a bumbleberry? Is
I
this
don't
a
even know.
Canadian thing?
It might be a Canadian thing. It's a type of,
I've never
it's
heard
almost
of
like
it.
I don't even know. It's like a raspberry, blueberry, blackberry combination, I think.
Huh.
Something
It's
like
like a
that.
raspberry married a blueberry and did something
Something.
else with
It's good.
a
Yeah. But
strawberry.
I've never
Interesting.
had it outside of a pie, so I don't really know.
Yeah.
Or
Fascinating. Bumbleberry.
it might be a combination. I don't even know. So
We
yeah.
don't know, but you can look it up, guys. Bumbleberry pie. Look it up and let us know where it's where it's originated from. Okay, would you rather maybe you have one of these, I don't even know. Would you rather a private jet or a personal yacht?
Private jet for sure.
Where are you taking your family on your private jet? Money's not an issue. Time is not even an issue. The world is at your
To our
leisure.
winter home in Mexico.
You're already going to a place that you already have. There's nowhere else you'd rather go.
No, I mean, well, we're just, my wife and I were just there the last 3 days because we're about 7 months from completion, and there's a reason we're building there. So it's like,
Oh,
yeah,
I see. You're right. So you're building this home
yeah,
in Mexico. That's a cool idea.
yeah.
That's
Because,
awesome. Where do you just build a home in Mexico?
well, there's a lot
Is
of
it on the
places, but
coast?
yeah. So we're building in an area that's just north of Acapulco. It's a bit of a
Okay.
private community. It's right on the
Yeah.
cliff, overlooking the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
We've been there 15 times in our lives, and like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the type of place where you get off the plane and you feel at home. Like there's an
Yeah.
energy there that's very special.
Yeah.
And when we learned about the development that was happening, we're like, we're definitely looking at this.
Mm.
And so that's kind of like our winter escape from the cold because we live in Toronto.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
that's
don't
what our
blame you
plan.
there. I really love the Mexican culture too. I've also been to Mexico quite a few times, and um I would even just say as a culture, they are just very warm and welcoming
Oh,
in my
amazing.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because there's so much fear. Oh my God, like because so we bought the land during COVID. So we never were
Okay.
there. So we bought everything over the
Yes.
internet pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And thankfully, we're working with one of the top architects in the country. But everyone was like, just be careful. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it's been better building there than it would be building in Toronto. Like, it's been so
Right.
seamless and amazing. And it's
Yeah.
just like, why don't you go to Mexico and experience it before you start talking
Yeah.
about shit you see on the news, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So fun.
awesome. Well, I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
If you see some random woman floating in the pool outside your house, it's probably me.
Well, hopefully not floating, maybe swimming. Floating, I have a different connotation.
Okay, we don't want any bodies floating in the pool.
No.
No one get any ideas. I can't float anyway, actually. I sink. There's a whole nother conversation, but hopefully I'll never get stranded in the ocean or else I'm gone. Heaven's my next destination. So we talk about nutrition a little bit, and then we're gonna talk about healthpreneur. This concept of all day energy, you've got so many great quotes on your website. Um, but what we're really tapping into is this concept of, I think, eating for function as much as weight loss. Like there's sometimes we get so into this idea, especially depending on what your own history is with food. There's a lot of disordered eating, and it's really hard for us to get out of that concept of almost eating less, sort of like a deprivation mindset. When in reality, as you and I both know, most of us actually need to be eating more, just more of the right thing.
Yep.
So I would love to hear this concept. Your book talks about how to double your energy in 7 days and leveraging food as that source. Talk to me a little bit about what that even looks like. When someone first hears that, what is the first step they need to take to leverage food for energy?
Yeah, so there's the basic premise of the book is just eat more plants, eat more greens, alkalize the body. It's not rocket science. It's everyone says the same thing, kind of.
Yeah.
And so I just share what worked for me, which was alkalizing my body, realizing that at the time it was very acidic from the standard American diet of processed foods. I won't get into the science of like acid alkaline stuff, but basically eating more greens, allowing more like nutrient rich foods into your body,
Mhm.
And it just so happens when you do that, your body just tends to operate better. With respect to um, kind of immediate levers, a lot of times it's just to understand like there might be one or two things you're eating that are just robbing your energy. So it might be bread,
Mm.
it
Mm.
might be caffeine, it might be sugar. And just by removing those, you start to recognize like, oh, wow, I feel a lot better with that stuff. And so there's kind of two ways of looking at this. One is like you can get rid of stuff that doesn't make you feel great. And then the important thing is you have to fill the void with something. Otherwise, we'll just, lean back into certain habits. And then the second thing is, well, if we could take that approach, or we could just focus on adding more of the good in, and the
Yes.
better we feel, the more the good just pushes the not so good out of the way. Just like having a better player in your team puts someone who's less good on the bench. And so it's less about being, I mean, the book's premise is eat more plants, more of them in their raw state. And at the time of when I was writing the book, I was more vegetarian, but I still eat a lot of meat. Now, I shouldn't say a lot of
Hmm.
meats. Like I'll eat meat several times a week. And
Hmm.
honestly, I don't care. Like if someone is vegan, great. If someone's keto, awesome. I think the key is like I wrote the book at a very different time in my life, but
Yeah.
the principles still apply.
Hmm.
And I think the
Hmm.
key, like one of the key lessons that I've learned over my time is like just experiment with different stuff and see what works best for you. Because, even though tens of thousands of people have read the book and gone through it and have transformations, it doesn't mean that that's the best way for them to eat forever. Like, so
Hmm.
for me, that was what worked for me for a good decade. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I was just at a different stage of my life where I felt like eating more meat and fish and steak and stuff. And I was like, cool. So if I'm going to have that stuff, well, let's not forget the basic principles of like, let's make
Right.
sure we have some greens coming in, some veggies and some fruit. So I'm not so dogmatic about,
Hmm.
I think a lot, what I've noticed is when I got into nutrition, I was very dogmatic because I
Hmm.
was like, it's got to be like organic. And I'm like, and that's
Yeah.
exhausting. I think a lot of us go through that
Preach.
journey
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's okay. I mean, I think you
And
kind
it's
of go through it.
easier mentally. This
Yeah,
is where, especially like in my fitness nutrition coaching that I've had to work with women, is we almost want black and white because then we don't
totally.
have to make decisions and we don't have to
Yeah,
use our brains. But the
exactly.
problem is it's not sustainable. We burn out and we exhaust ourselves and then we swing back to the other side. So like
Yeah.
what you're saying, absolutely.
Because, like, as an example, in the book, I demonized caffeine, demonized it.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
one of the energy robbers along with sugar. And here I am now, uh, whatever it is, 15 years later, and coffee is one of the joys of my life.
Yeah.
But I don't overdo it. Like I have a coffee in the morning, I'll
Yes.
have two at the most, and I enjoy that experience. And for me, I'm like, I understand what it does to the adrenals if it's overdone,
Yep.
and you just kind of listen to your body, and like
Hmm.
I enjoy a nice coffee on a nice
Hmm.
day sitting outside. And I
Hmm.
would rather have that experience than being, oh my God, your coffee has mold in it unless you're using these specific beans.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, please just stop. So
Yes.
yeah, it's like, yeah,
I
when you
just
go down
saw
the
that
rabbit hole,
Instagram ad not that long ago and I was
oh
like,
my God,
mm,
that's part of
yes,
why I kind of stepped out of the nutrition and health space a little bit,
I
is
hear
because
you. Yeah.
when you get so far down the rabbit hole, you realize you don't actually know much because there's
Yeah.
no one answer. There's so
Yeah.
many different paths. And it's like, I remember when I was on Dr. Oz, which was an amazing experience and
Mm,
cool, whatever.
yeah.
One of the segments we were talking about lemon water, and we talked about the benefits of it and so forth. And it's such a simple concept. Squeeze some lemon in some water. And I
Mhm.
can't tell you, not from that specifically, but just in general, when I would talk with people about that, they'd be like, well, how much lemon, how much water?
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
it doesn't matter. Just squeeze half a lemon as much as you like. How much apple cider vinegar should I have? I don't care. Like
Yeah.
have a tablespoon with
Yeah.
what it's fine. So,
Yes.
but I get it. Like the problem is most people,
And we've all been there. This is, if you are listening right
yeah,
now, Yuri and I are laughing with you, not at you, because we've been there,
totally.
right?
Like,
Like we've all been there, as he literally just said. So we have to be able to
yeah,
laugh at ourselves, but there is something to be heard here. Don't miss it.
And I think too, it's like the part of my mission, and it still is to this day, is like most people know more about their cars than they do about their body.
Mm,
And so it's no surprise when someone's like completely oblivious to the benefit of water or walking.
yeah.
And then there's a very large percent of the population that is obviously becoming more mindful of it and aware of it, which is great. But, it's like, it's challenging because if you don't know anything, then how are you supposed to make a good decision? And then
Mhm.
you get fed very one-sided information based on what you interact with online, and
Yes,
that only reinforces a very myopic view
for
of
sure.
anything. And so
Yeah.
then you don't see the alternative, and it's just
Yeah.
a really kind of tricky time to try to make sense of as a consumer
Yes.
in general.
What would you say? So, for somebody listening, because that being said, I think you and I would both agree there are certain principles that hold true, not necessarily dogmatic to the point that your life is going to absolutely fall apart and will
Yeah.
have no meaning if you don't apply them. However, there are certain truths that exist if you want to have more energy during the day, prevent disease, and live um, a more freeing life, especially in the standpoint of fulfilling your God-given purpose with more energy, freedom, and joy. There are some nutritional principles that exist.
Yeah.
What would you say that those are if somebody wants to start improving their energy, whether it be foods they need to get rid of today, or
Mhm.
certain foods they need to start eating today,
Yeah.
water, whatever you would say in your years of experience, what are a couple principles they can start doing to have more energy?
I'd say the big three are going to be wheat or gluten, sugar and caffeine are probably the three things I would consider removing
Mhm.
temporarily so you can feel the difference. And
Mm,
then you can make a decision of whether you want to reincorporate them. Um, I'd say those are kind of like the top three
mm,
in terms of like removal and just play with that. In terms of addition, as a very, very baseline, like just drinking more water. Like we just have to be drinking more water throughout the day. Um, Getting more greens. So I think even just as simple as like a greens powder or a green juice, whatever form, as long as it's green, just get it into the body. There's so many benefits to that. I think focusing on moving more, working out less. So get outside,
mm.
move your body, get some sunlight. Think of like what would our ancestors have done thousands of years ago and try to
Yes.
get closer to that. So if they go to bed at sundown and wake up at sunlight, can we replicate that? I think one of the most important things from a sleep perspective is go to bed and wake up at the same time every single day for the rest of your life. That is probably the single best thing I can share with respect to having more energy because it completely regulates your circadian rhythm,
You
which
guys, Yuri said it. I've said it a million times, but Yuri said it. So if you didn't believe me, believe him. He's
like
got way
it's
more years of experience than me and knowledge. So believe him at least.
and listen, like I'm not the only person to say this, a lot of other people do as well. It's
Yes.
probably the single most overarching thing you can do to change your how your body just functions.
Yeah.
So that as a
Absolutely.
starting point, drink more water, get some more greens, consider removing caffeine, sugar, wheat slash gluten, at least temporarily. And then aside from that, you can do all of that stuff and still be lethargic and miserable
Mm,
if you do not love what you do every single day. I think one of the
great
most important things
transition.
to have more energy is to wake up every single day like a laser guided missile with a strong purpose. And I think that's a very overlooked thing because I know
Mm,
plenty of people who don't have the best diets, but they are, man, like they're just pumped because
yes.
they have something purposeful they're working towards.
I love that. And for those of you that just heard water and you're like, how much water? You're
It's
one of
just,
those.
yeah. I mean,
I'll
I
tell you
have
what I
this
tell people. What I tell
like,
people is try to drink half your body weight in ounces a day. There you go. For those of you that need a number, try to drink half your body weight in ounces a day as a starting point.
yeah.
Um,
And soda doesn't
you
count. Like it's
That's
just water.
right. Caffeine doesn't count either, you guys. Coffee doesn't count as much as I would like it to. It does not.
Yeah.
Um, what you just said is so good. I have said this before that there's that quote that goes around that passion fuels purpose. And
Mhm.
as I talk about in my program, Early Morning Habit, that I believe that purpose more effectively fuels passion. And passion and energy are so closely tied together. And what you just said sits there beautifully. And to take it an even step further, your program, Healthpreneur, we have not really talked about that yet, but that's what he has transitioned into, you guys, from being this energy nutritionist, as his website says, which is fantastic. I love that. But one of the things that you said in the trainings, I listened to like all your free trainings, and you had this line that I'm going to misquote it, but the idea was that we live in an age where people now want specialists, not generalists. And I actually think that fits to what you just said, whether people listening are in business or not. That idea of, I would argue, we're all specialists at something.
Mhm.
Even the stay-at-home mom who feels like she's a little burnt out, doesn't have the energy, wondering what her purpose is in life, you are a specialist at something. You just might not have ever taken the time to figure out what that is. And so anyway, whether you're in business or not, you guys listening into this, these principles I think apply to all of us. And with those of us that have done personal branding work, it's kind of it's almost therapeutic. I feel like it's been a very enlightening journey, even just in my personal life, let alone my professional one. So for all of our health professionals, especially who are listening, you guys tune in here, turn it up, pause what you're doing and listen. Tell us about Healthpreneur.
I mean, very simply, we help health professionals build scalable coaching businesses that transform our lives with heart. Um, we call it, like, I refer to it as a scalable coaching business, which means it's a business that can scale. If it can
Yeah.
scale, then it's sustainable. If you do one-on-one work, as an example, in a clinic, that's not scalable. It's not sustainable.
Yes.
Burnout is the biggest problem in our space because all of us were fed into this medical matrix of the only way to help people is one-on-one, and you should be a martyr in the service of other people. And it's ridiculous. And we have amazing health practitioners who are unknown to a lot of people, or they undercharge, or they try to help everyone. And so here's the thing is like when you have a brick and mortar, you can become very successful in spite of yourself because people walk down the street and they fall in your lap. And
Yeah.
then because you help everyone, they just refer whoever they want. And that's cool. However, when you start to look at, okay, well, maybe I don't want to build a prison, which I refer to as a brick and mortar. I actually want to have time and location freedom. I want to be able to reach, teach, and influence more people. I want to move maybe from doctoring to coaching because that's where true transformation happens. It's not
Mhm.
transactional anymore. Then you actually have to build a business. Like you actually have to put yourself out there. And a lot of us obviously do so virtually. So when you proactively have to put yourself out there, and especially online, no one is walking by your quote unquote brick and mortar virtually.
Mhm.
No one knows you exist. Obscurity is the biggest danger to everyone. And so, how do you proactively put yourself in front of people? Well, you have to be very clear about who it is you serve. Because just even like mechanically, if you say, I help people with X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, how do you even coherently have a message that can be repeated over and over again that will get people to say, oh, yeah, that's so and so. They're the expert in A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, like no one thinks like that.
Yeah.
So, from a marketing perspective, it's near impossible to have a successful business, at least online, where you proactively have to put yourself out there, whether that's running ads, creating content in a way where people are like, oh, yeah, Anna's that person, because everyone's looking to
Yeah.
put us in a drawer. They want to give us a
Mhm.
label so they can make sense of this world very easily. One of the biggest reasons people love working with us is because we only work with health professionals,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
we could do what we do with mortgage brokers and other people, but we don't. And that's
Mhm.
very attractive because everyone wants to work with a specialist. No one, like if you have a roof leak, no one's calling the general contractor. Like you want the roofer or the plumber or the
Mhm.
specialist because we inherently know they're the best at that specific thing. Yet for some reason, we're like, well, I'm going to alienate a lot of people. I'm not going to be able to help everyone. Yeah, obviously. Who cares? Were you going
Mhm.
to help 7 billion people in the first place? No. And like you still won't help the 0.0001% of the market you're hoping to serve. Like
Mhm.
there's millions of people with migraines. There are millions of
Mhm.
people with type 2 diabetes. Insert one specific specialty that you have the most experience with, that you have the most joy in serving, and you can get the best results for. And you will have more than, especially online specifically, you'll have more people than you can serve in 10 lifetimes.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's so
it's just
true.
so important.
Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
Right.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, I am a living testimony of this. When I started out in this space, I was all over the place. I started as a home DIY decor blogger, which is hilarious. Um, in this space, it was just like a creative outlet to share our family's fixer-upper adventures with our homes. But by education and profession, I had 2 masters in nursing. I went to Johns Hopkins. I was in emergency medicine for 10 years. I helped start up 2 stroke programs from the ground up, published by American Heart Association. So I was online for this home DIY decor, which I absolutely loved. It's an incredible community. And then COVID hit. And then for the first time, I was like, "Oh, okay, we need like educated information." And
Hmm.
so it was the first time I ever put myself out there online as the health expert that I actually am. Um, and so it started this whole new virtual journey for me, and it's just been such a cool story. But to what you're saying, there's so many points. But one, even from a medical standpoint, in emergency medicine, I was a prime example of, we always joke, we are an inch deep and a mile wide.
Yeah.
We're not actually experts at anything except expecting the unexpected, and that's about all, and
Because you would
keeping you
just
from
get
death.
anything coming at you, right?
We just keep you from dying. That's about our expertise.
Yeah.
Um,
Because you,
an
you can't
important
have a
one, mind
hospital
you.
that's going to triage. Sorry, you have a back injury. Sorry, we can't deal with you. Gunshot wound. Come
Right,
on in. Like you can't do
right.
that. It's just nature. Like it's
No.
just a catch-all, right?
Yeah, so not only was it like I knew that the home DIY area was just sort of like a stepping stone, and what I found is the same women who came to me for budget-friendly kitchen ideas were the same women who were interested in, my unique position with a foot on either side of healthcare as well as preventative care, because they're not the same.
Hmm.
Disease care is not the same as the fitness nutrition industry. Um, so anyway, to your point, this was really a period of wrestling for me. And for those of you listening right now, health professionals who are either in the virtual space or you're still in the brick and mortar and you're trying to step into the virtual space, like shoot me a message anytime. I'll give my insight as much as I can. And I'm going to end up pointing you to Yuri. So maybe just bypass me completely and go to Yuri. But this took me so long, is where I'm going with this, to throw stuff up at the wall and figure out what sticks and why am I in this space
Hmm.
in the first place. And I ended up creating Early Morning Habit because when I was a fitness and nutrition coach for Fast Way to Fat Loss, I saw Amanda Tress on your
Amanda.
website. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, girl, there she is. She and I went to college together, but I
Small
coached for
world.
her program. Yeah. Yeah. Love Amanda and Brandon. Coached for her program. And you know what's so interesting? What you said earlier is the one thing that I always struggled with is I have never actually struggled with my weight. And I grew up in a very fitness forward family because my dad had a heart attack at the age of 40. So at a young age, I was like, okay, exercise could save my life. Um, so I struggled feeling like I missed this connection with my clients, even though I was very educated. I couldn't connect with them personally because I didn't have that experience where like
Mhm.
I had that rock bottom moment that I had to really like climb out of, except for one thing, which was my desperate desire to become a morning person and rise a little bit earlier and start my day quiet with God's word and a workout.
Good for
And so
you.
I created a program where I was like, and I did it. It took 2 years to do it. I did it. And I was like, why am I not teaching women how to do this?
Yeah. That's actually one of the
And
easiest ways to
here
like
we are.
one of the easiest ways to narrow down is, well, who would I want to like if you serve you in the past,
Yes.
that's a great place to start because I would venture to say there are millions of women who have the same desire as you did or do.
Yes. Yes.
And unless you have some weird, obscure thing that no one has a desire around, like
Yeah.
when I came online, I didn't help people with alopecia, which was the hair loss thing.
Right.
I helped, I was a generalist. That's why it took me so long to get traction because I was doing everything. And that was a hard lesson I had to learn. Like with Healthpreneur, I was like, I'm not making those mistakes again.
Yeah.
But if I was being very true to myself, I could have said, I'm going to only work with athletes who want to get better in
Yes.
soccer, right?
Yeah.
Like it's instead of like worrying about like, is this the best market? Don't worry about where the opportunity is. Don't jump on the trend.
Yeah.
There is so much opportunity in every possible vertical or condition or desire. in the health and fitness space, it's crazy. Assuming you're helping people solve something they want solving or help with, there are tens of millions of people out there with that thing. And so whether it's migraine headaches or starting a morning work, like morning habit, type of ritual, most of us, it's like, well, just look back, like what would I have wanted 5 or 10 years ago? And
Right.
just do that. Because other people out there will have or are wanting the same thing. They're just earlier in their journey. And now you're a couple of steps ahead of them. And you can resonate because of your story as well, which is very powerful.
Yes. Yeah, and that was something that came across very clearly in your trainings. You guys, we're going to make sure this link is included for you to be able to get all of these free trainings. But one of the things that is so crucial is to get really clear on who you serve. And you just said that. But it's like anything, that's easy to say. And you may think that you know, you probably don't. I'm just going to throw that out there. You think you do, you don't. Until you do these free trainings, and then you'll realize, like, oh, that's how you do it. Because if you know who, then how do you reach them? Because you're obscure, we've been too busy, being on call and saving lives. We haven't had time to be on Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, so this is well healthpreneur comes in. Tell us a little bit about your uniqueness. Not only you serve health professionals, but how are you guys uniquely positioned to help health professionals
Yeah.
build and monetize their business?
So one is I've been online in the health space since 2005, which is
Yeah.
almost unheard of in our space. There's a lot of people who started a couple years ago who had a good month and now they're coaches or business coaches. And I think true expertise doesn't lie. So number one is we have an unparalleled reputation because I built and sold a very big company in the health
Right.
space. And now we help people do that. So it's not like I'm doing something I've never done before, which a lot of people unfortunately do. Aside from that, um, I think what we do very well is we help make business simple for people, especially health professionals who have amazing technical skills, but very limited business skills. And we help them understand the principles and mechanics of building a business. And part of that is systems, part of it is skills. And we help them on both. So we help them install the right systems to help them bring people into their world.
Mhm.
How do I do that? I just do this, this, and this. And then how do I help them online? Just do this, this, and this. And then the second piece is the skills, because a lot of amazing people in our space, they will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through
Yes.
school and then nothing to build their business and marketing skills. But again, because in the case of like an ER, for instance, people just fall into your lap. But
Right.
as soon as you're not in that environment and no one's falling in your lap, you're like,
Yeah.
how do I reach people? That's a new
Yeah.
skill you have to build. So, skill around clarity of messaging, clarity of who you want to serve, understanding all these little skills that need to be built to become better at marketing, to become better at selling,
Mhm.
because we're always selling something, whether it's a vision, an idea, a person into your
Mhm.
program, whatever it is. And then learning how to run a business. So, becoming not just a technician, but an actual CEO. And not everyone wants to do that. And that's fine. Just understand the trade off. The trade off is like, you'll be working in the trenches forever, or you could build a business that impacts a lot of people. And if you don't know how to do that, that is 100% okay, because you didn't know how to do what you did before you went to school.
Right.
So we're kind of like the business school for health professionals that's actually applicable and will actually help you
Love
earn
it.
what you want to earn, have more time and location freedom, and doing so without a lot of the grinds that we now see all over the place. So,
Yeah, and, I think the bottom line, you guys listening who are like, "Whoo, that might be what I need." It is what you need, I'm telling you that right now. Um, because I think the key is time ends up being more valuable than money, right? We reach a point where it's like time is the one thing we cannot make more of. There are 24
totally.
hours in a day, period. You can always make more money. So the idea is, how about we skip over the amount of money that you're losing because you're giving up too much time and invest with someone who is actually going to help you skip over, make you more money and save you time by leveraging their own expertise. So healthpreneur is just such an amazing. I've already said to my husband, like, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we end up working together because I love what you
Whenever
guys
you're ready.
do. Hey, I love it. I love it. Um, where can people find you, follow you, learn more about what you do, healthpreneur especially?
Yeah. I guess the two best places is I put everything out on YouTube for free. So like I don't hold anything back. I share some of I think my best stuff on YouTube. So if you just go to YouTube and search for Healthpreneur, you'll find our channel. Um, Second, if you want to connect, I'm on Instagram at Healthpreneur. Just send me a DM saying you saw me on Anna's show, and I'll hook you up with some free trainings that Anna alluded to, and we can help you, at least from that perspective, get more clarity on, how you could grow your business if that's the stage you're at.
Awesome. Love it. We'll
Yeah.
make sure these links to everything are included in the show notes, you guys. Yuri, it was such an honor to have you. I just pray
Thank you
God's
so much.
blessing over your home, your family, your sweet kiddos, and just all that you're doing to help really those of us in the health profession thrive and serve more people and serve them well. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Anna.